Hey guys, welcome to the Pew Review channel. I'm excited about today. I've got my hands on some amazing STIs and then a Springfield Armory just for a little comparison of a striker fire. I'm going to do a full review, a little bit of a tabletop review, and then a range review. We're going to compare some of these different models side by side. Some of these are ones that I've been trying to get my hands on for a long time. This is a DVC Open, and then this is a DVC Steel, which is like its little brother. It's about an inch shorter version of the same gun. This is the DVC P, which is the one that came out right after the DVC Omni. They're a very similar model. Also been wanting to get my hands on one of these. So what we have here is a lineup of 4 like open guns for competition shooting. And then just a striker fire. This is the XDM competition, so it kind of falls into that category. It wouldn't be considered an open gun unless you had like a red dot on it or something. And even then, might fall underneath the category now of like the modified division or carry optics. But just kind of a good 5¼ inch gun is why I picked it to review, because it's a similar barrel length to some of these others. So I figured it would be kind of a good baseline to compare to some of these other guns. So stick with us. We've got some awesome things coming up. Trying to get some videos out, been very busy, but I'm going to get some of these videos made of these awesome guns. And then I've got some behind me here that I'm going to be reviewing as well soon, so stick around. All right, so quick review of what we're going to be reviewing today on the Pew Review channel. I have an STI DVC Limited, which has been modified and converted to an open gun. It's got an aftermarket barrel, which is threaded, allowing for a compensator. This has a huge compensator, which I will say, while it is very effective, I personally dislike how long it is for, you know, aesthetically, the looks of it. You know, it doesn't really seem like it fits with the gun as well as some of these other ones. But I will say in that is that it is very effective. This thing works well. This gun has the Leupold Delta Point Pro on it. This does have the triangle dot, which takes some getting used to. I'm still not sure how I feel about it. I am getting used to shooting it though. So take that for what it is. That's probably a preference thing. Then we have an STI DVC Open. This one has been modified a little bit too. It has a, I think, Phoenix Trinity grip on it. So it has an actual metal grip instead of a polymer grip like STIs come with and what they're known for. It's got the Chile mount with a Vortex Razor 3 MOA dot on it. This one does have an aftermarket barrel, very similar to the factory, and an aftermarket comp, again, almost identical to the factory comp. More than likely what happened here, which I've seen happen a fair amount, is shooting 9 major, sometimes the factory comps would crack on a DVC Open. The DVC Open from the factory has a 1-piece barrel and compensator, so all of this is 1 piece. So when those crack, most people would just replace the barrel, do something similar to this. I do like this because you can change the comp. If that comp were to crack shooting 9 major, you know, it's as simple as swapping the comp instead of having to buy the whole new barrel and comp. So next up, I have a fully factory STI DVC Steel. Now this gun has been my dream gun. I've been searching for one of these. I overpaid for this one to get it, but I did get it and I'm very excited about it in a lot of ways. I'm a little disappointed in some other ways, which we will get to for the review. But this gun does still have the factory barrel and the factory comp, all 1 piece. So this gun I'm not going to be shooting 9 major out of, so I don't foresee a comp cracking ever being in my future, hopefully. So I really like the 1 piece on these. This gun is really being the kind of smaller little brother version of the DVC Open. The DVC Steel is designed to shoot factory ammunition, which is what drew me to it so much. So I do shoot a lot of factory ammunition, and when I do hand load, I hand load as close to that factory ammunition as I can, because I don't want to have to go, you know, changing recoil springs and everything, depending on what ammunition I can get my hands on for this or that match. It's nice to have my gun set up to run, and it run whatever I'm able to buy off the shelf, especially the last couple of years with ammo shortages. So this gun has the factory rail mount with a Seymour, I think it's a 6 MOA dot on it. A lot of things to like about this gun, a few things to dislike. That Seymour is huge. The whole frame of this red dot itself is massive and like, you know, almost seems inappropriately massive. So I don't know why it needs to be that big. It is an older style dot, so maybe the technology just wasn't caught up to it at that point. But the window size is amazing. I love the 6 MOA dot. This is the easiest dot, especially me being fairly new to shooting red dots on pistols. This is the easiest dot for me to find when I come, you know, from the center to press out. So the next closest to that is on this DVC-P. So this is a factory STI DVC-P. These came with the slide cut to be able to frame mount a dot just like this. This has a 2.5 MOA Trijicon SRO. These SROs are awesome. They have a very large window, almost similar size window to the Seymour. However, it is a little smaller, but it's a lot more compact, smaller optic itself in general, the whole frame. So this is an awesome option. This gun itself is an amazing competition gun, but it's not purpose built for competition like these three looking guns would be. This can be a great duty gun. With that being said, the SRO is not duty rated. So if you were to buy this, you know, for a military, whatever kind of gun you're trying to find, like a duty version of a gun, if you're a law enforcement officer and your department allows you to carry your own weapon, technically this dot is not duty rated, so that might weigh into your decision on using it or not. It is an amazing optic. I think the only reason it's not duty rated is because that window is so large, the glass probably is more likely to crack. However, that being said, if this glass cracks, it doesn't make it inoperable. You know, as long as you can still get the red dot and you can target focus with your left eye or your non-dominant eye, and you could put your dot on that target, it can still be usable. So I'm not sure what exactly failed on the duty rating testing on these. I've just heard that they did. So, you know, if you're looking for one, you can do some more research on that. And then we just have a factory, no red dot, just XDM9. This is the competition, 5¼ inch coffin cut slide, reduce a little bit of reciprocating weight. This was actually the first type of gun that I shot, 4.3 gun for competition. That got me into 3 gun. I actually shot a 40 cal because I had no idea what I was doing. So I bought this one shortly after, and as soon as I bought it, I ended up buying an STI. Of course, set this thing down and never shot it again. So it does shoot great. It doesn't shoot like a 1911 or 2011 style gun. I will say that right now. These things, they're built for that purpose. These things shoot amazing for competition. That doesn't take anything away from this gun. This gun actually shoots really well. I will do some recoil muzzle flip comparisons on like a slow motion video, and I kind of align these in order of what I expect to have the most muzzle flip to the least muzzle flip. A lot of that has to do with what, you know, these guns are, have the compensators on them, a little bit heavier, longer. This one's got a massive comp, so I assumed it was going to have the least muzzle flip. I don't personally like how big that comp is, but it is very effective. So we'll see if I'm guessing right here on least to most muzzle flip. But we're gonna give it a shot. We'll get to the range, give these things a test. I'll kind of go over a little bit more as I think about it as I'm shooting each gun. But you know, this is a gun brand new to me. This gun I borrowed, a buddy of mine bought it. And then this is his competition gun. So we will test them out, compare them, and see what happens. So I'm excited. Let's get to the range. All right, then next we have the DVC Open by STI. So again, they don't make this model anymore, but this is one of their most popular competition models they ever made. It has the slide cuts on the sides and the top. And then this one has an aftermarket barrel and comp. As I stated previously in the video, I believe more than likely this comp cracked from the factory. A lot of them did, shooting 9 major. So this one has been replaced. This comp looks almost identical to the factory comp. It has the side ports. So again, this thing shot very well. This one does have a lot heavier grip. It has a metal, I think this is the Phoenix Trinity grip. And this one has the Limcat trigger, a couple of Limcat parts in it. But this gun shot really well. The extra weight did give it a little bit of balance. You do feel a little bit more of the recoil through that metal transfers to your hand, but the weight that it adds does kind of make up for that. So this thing shot very flat. You can kind of compare that in the video and see how it did next to the other guns that I shot that all had polymer grip modules. So again, this thing shot really good. I did notice this one, these come uncoated, and it doesn't feel quite as slick as like the DVC-P, which has that black coating on it. So it just doesn't quite have the same feel to it. It's hard to describe, but you can definitely tell the difference. But this thing shot really good. They all grouped really tight. It's really hard to compare that because I was trying to just shoot as fast as I could since it's a slow-mo video. I didn't want to drag that out forever. But they actually grouped all within, you know, an A zone on a target. Every one of them did, so I'm happy with that. This does have a Limcat trigger, so this one's probably only 2.5 pounds at most, a little bit lighter than the DVC-P. And again, just, you know, a little bit of prep. This thing's got an awesome break, so I really like this gun. It shoots awesome. I would say it was probably one of the flattest guns that I shot. We're gonna watch the video and get some feedback on that, but it felt flattest, so we'll see how it did. All right, next up is the STI DVC Steel. So again, this has always been my dream gun, so I was really excited to get this in my hands and do a review of it. I was a little disappointed on a couple of things on it that I was not expecting, but again, even with that being said, this is still my favorite gun I own. So this thing is amazing. It shoots awesome. It probably has a little bit more recoil feeling, and especially being the shorter version compared to the DVC Open, I think it's a little snappier feeling. But with the compactness of it, and with, you know, withdrawing from the holster being shorter, maneuvering around obstacles at a stage in a match, I would still pick this gun over the Open, I believe. It'd be a tough call though. That Open did shoot very well. What I don't like about this gun is what I actually thought I would like the most about it. So with this having an inch shorter barrel, it does make it a lot more compact. The downside is that this comp is so close to this sight that it dusts it. And so after, you know, I've shot some matches with this, so I'm not speaking from just the few shots I took here, but shooting matches with this thing, it dusts this sight so bad with the powder that it gets to where you can't hardly see through it. Now with that, I have been trying to shoot more target focus, so I'm shooting with my left eye looking at the target, and then my right eye is essentially just picking up the dot and superimposing that dot onto the target. So the reticle, or the lens itself being covered, isn't as big of an issue as long as I can still see that reticle, and I can. But for some people that don't shoot like that, that would be a big negative, so I have to throw that in there. Now I do have a Chile mount that sits a little further back, and it allows you to put a smaller optic kind of in this area, and I think that would help a lot. I'm probably going to do that. I was just doing a review with it in the stock configuration because this gun comes factory from STI with the STI branded red dot mount here, and it comes with that Seymour mount on it. So this, or the Seymour dot on it. So this is exactly how this gun comes from the factory. What I really like about it, that titanium nitride gold looking barrel and comp not only are aesthetically really cool, but they do provide a really slick feel and finish to this action. There's a big difference in this gun feeling to that DVC Open that I was reviewing that has an aftermarket barrel and comp. This gun just feels better, and a little bit of that is that, you know, some of the friction on these guns is from the slide onto the barrel, and so that kind of slickens that up. So, you know, with these are designed to be a lot less friction with that coating, and I do feel the difference. So this gun did shoot awesome. It's honestly one of my favorite guns to shoot. I might put a little clip in from a match that I shot recently so you can see how it shoots, not just, you know, in slow-mo at a target, but I'll probably put a little clip of me shooting at a stage or two at a match. So again, same thing with all these STIs, very little prep on the trigger, nice clean crisp break. This one feels almost as light as that DVC Open felt. It's a little lighter than that DVC P, probably around the 2.5 pound range on the trigger. This thing shot awesome. So let's get to the last two guns and kind of compare them. All right, so we're just going to review the guns one at a time here, compared how they shoot, and then we'll talk about the optics separately there, but each one individually. So this is the STI DVC P. Again, this is a gun that came out right after the DVC Omni. It's what kind of took its place. There's a lot of similarities to this gun. The slide cuts look very much identical. The comp on this gun is built the same, however, it doesn't have the side ports on it like the Omni has. And it doesn't have the top slide cuts that the Omni had. Other than that, this is pretty much the exact same gun as the Omni. This thing shoots very flat for the type of gun that it is. I was actually really impressed. It shot flatter than I expected it to shoot for just having the single port built into this comp that's part of the barrel here. So very impressed with this gun. The trigger, just like all other STI DVCs, very good. You got a little bit of prep there, and then a nice break, crisp break. I'd say this one's probably 3 pounds, 2.5, something like that. I don't have an actual scale, but just going off of how other triggers feel. This thing shot very well. I'm very pleased with it. This has the factory polymer grip, which I do believe actually absorbs some recoil. They kind of say that in their marketing, and you know, whether they have really good marketing and they've got me convinced or it's true, it really does seem to absorb some of the recoil, because this thing felt amazing to shoot. So very impressed, DVC P. We'll go through the other guns as well here. All right, and last we have the baseline is what I'll call it. It is still a really good shooting gun. I bought this thing when I first got into 3-gun. My first competition gun was an XDM competition, very similar to this, but it was in a 40 cal. I shot that for probably almost 2 years and then realized, you know, 40 cal was not, there's no benefit to it in 3-gun, and it's actually more the opposite. So I sold it. I ended up buying this XDM competition 5¼ inch in 9mm. It's actually a really good shooting gun, but to be honest, I never shot a single match with it. As soon as I bought this, I found an STI for a good price, bought it, and never looked back. This thing sat in the safe for a while. I sold it to a buddy of mine. I just ended up buying it back, so I thought I'd throw it in here for the review. But to be honest, for what it is, this gun actually shot really well. You'll notice in the video, in the slow-mo, it definitely had the most recoil. It was definitely the snappiest. You'll see that I started out with it recoiling quite a bit, and then I kind of realized that I was laxing my grip because I'd been shooting the 2011s the whole day. So whenever it came time for this one, I had to really tighten my support hand and really grip this thing. And that did mitigate a lot of the recoil. However, it recoiled a lot more than the others, and that's to be expected. But talking about this gun in review, besides how it shoots, it's got a polymer frame. They kind of have a little bit of play on the slide to fit, and that's pretty common on a polymer gun like this or a Glock, anything like that. The trigger on it is terrible compared to a 2011 or 1911, but it's really not bad for a striker fire gun. But I mean, I'd say you're probably 5 pounds on that thing. You know, when you prep it, it's got, it kind of has that double hinge, like the center trigger, and then it comes back. I mean, it comes back a good 3/4 of the way before you get to that wall, and that wall breaks. It is pretty heavy. It's kind of spongy. It's definitely not a hammerfire 2011 trigger, and that's to be expected. That's what those guns are so known for and why they are so popular in competition. Their triggers are unmatched. You can't really give this gun the same trigger feel that that gun's gonna have, unfortunately. But that's just the way that it is. This gun shot good. I mean, all of them cycled fine. All of them shot everything fine. You know, they all group fine again. This gun, I wouldn't really compare the groups to the others, more so. I was shooting iron sights. I was all shooting a red dot, but it really did shoot good for what it is. So in these, you know, this is, when I bought it, I want to say $700. Those other guns, you're talking anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000. So a big difference. So these are a great gun for the money. I wouldn't put them on the same level as that, but I wanted a nice baseline for comparing. You could really see the recoil difference on this compared to those other guns. So pretty cool gun. All of them have really good capacity. All of them have a lot of aftermarket parts out there. You could, if you like, you know, modding guns and doing things like that, the options are almost endless on all of these things. So pretty cool gun to shoot. But this one's probably gonna go back in the safe for a long time, and I'm gonna continue shooting the ones that I enjoy shooting the most. So it is a great gun, but there's better ones out there and there's better ones that I own. So I'll stick with those.
All right, moving over to like the tabletop review here. So we have the STI DVC Limited, the STI DVC P. You can tell that these models have a lot of the main basic structures. Really all of them do, as far as like the mains go. But this gun essentially is like a 5-inch full-size gun, whereas the barrel ends here though, and then the comp is there. If this gun didn't have this comp on it, which I can remove, and I have the factory barrel for it, they're a very similarly sized gun, full-size dust rail, or a full-size dust cover, whereas this one does have a rail. Both of them have the factory grips, very similar in that. I do have an aftermarket oversized shielded safety on this one, just to keep my thumb from riding the slide there. So I can remove this red dot mount on this one, change the barrel over, and have the stock STI DVC Limited here. And it would be very similarly sized to this. However, you know, I have a iron sight on the rear of here. This one is cut for an optic. And then we have the DVC open and the DVC steel. This is essentially the little brother to this. This has a inch longer barrel, I believe, and you can see on the DVC steel there are 2 slide cuts and there are 3 on the open, and that's about the length difference of the gun, is that extra slide cut there. The factory comp on this gun would have looked exactly like this. Actually, I think it might have had one more port, now that I say that. So the compensator is a little shorter on the steel than on the factory open. This compensator is very similarly sized to that. This is an aftermarket barrel and comp again. These guns all shot extremely well. It's hard really to put them in order of how they shot. If I were to just, not even really reviewing the slow-mo, but just going by how I felt like this gun probably shot the lightest, followed by this and this being a very close tie, and then this, but not far behind for this. So for the compact ability of this gun, something that you could actually put in a holster and carry, this gun shot amazing. I really would recommend a gun like this if you're not wanting it for the sole purpose of competition. If you're wanting it for the sole purpose of competition, then both of these guns would be an amazing option. This one is a little more compact. The downside being that the comp is so close to that red dot that it gets dirty fast, and it gets dirty enough that it's hard to just clean. I've even tried like those Zeiss lens wipes, and they don't even clean it enough. I have to get in there with like a Q-tip and some glass polish that I have to clean that thing off at least once a day when I'm shooting matches. So a little bit of a downside to that. I'm kind of getting used to it, but I wish it wasn't that way. I'll probably change the frame mount on this and put my other optic on it eventually and try that out for some matches. So speaking of optics, this one has the largest window, this one being a very close second. So we have the Seymour, we have the Trijicon SRO, we have the Vortex Razor, and the Leupold Delta Point. So this has the largest window, but it also has a huge body. The body of this red dot is massive, more than I would really prefer. So if I were to pick my favorite optic, this SRO, having a very large window, but a small body of the optic, is an awesome optic. So I would definitely recommend something like that. The larger window is nice, gives you a big, field of view per se, allows you to find that dot easily. This is the 2.5 MOA version. I would prefer even more, probably the 5 MOA version, to find that dot even faster. This has the triangle reticle in it, which I'm not a huge fan of. It's easy to find because it's large, but it's odd to me. I haven't been able to get used to it. That's a preference thing though, but it is very odd. This has a lot smaller window than the SRO and the Seymour, but it does seem to be a little bit bigger than the Razor. I would say that's the smallest window, and this one is a 3 MOA dot, so it's not too hard to find, but I really don't like the small window. This one's probably about as small of a window as I really like to look through. If you're used to shooting red dots, it's not as big of a deal. You could probably get by with that Razor all day long, because even the Razor, it's got a larger window than like the Venom, or there's a couple other models out there now that Vortex makes, and it does have a bigger window than those, but it's just nothing compared to the window on this. I don't have these optics on right now, but you can see fairly easy to find that reticle. Turn this one on. This one's got just a dial to turn here. I turned it up too much there, but you can see that 6 MOA is pretty easy to pick up. It's big. The camera's picking it up more than my eye does, so it doesn't. There you go, that's better. So that's about what that 6 MOA looks like. Really easy to find that. And let's see. know, there it is. Okay, now it's pretty bright, but that's the triangle. That's another downside of these. In order to turn this reticle down, you have to like cycle through. You have to pretty much go all the way up in the brightness and then back down. So, you know, you're just sitting there pushing the button until you find the brightness you want to be on. That's a little better, but hard to tell, but it is a triangle. It, at least size-wise, is easy to pick up. The triangle is just kind of odd. Some people like it. And this one does have up and down, which I do like. A lot smaller. I got it pretty bright right there. I was shooting these outside in the sun, so I had the brightnesses turned up quite a bit. There we go. So a lot smaller window, but a nice crisp dot. Little harder to pick up just because of the size of the window, but once you find it, that is a really nice dot. This red dot did well. 3 MOA is a good size. I don't know what MOA size this technically is on this thing, but the triangle does look pretty similar to probably, you know, like the 5, or this is a 6 in here. This is the biggest, but I'd say it's probably around a 5 with the triangle. But again, I personally like this one the best. This one, looking through, would be my next pick, but the overall size of it definitely drops it down a few notches. I really do like this razor. I wish it had a little bit bigger window. I want to do a review on one of these that isn't a triangle, because I do think that I would prefer it better. But some people do like the triangle because you can use the tip of the triangle as like a, you know, really precise zero, or for like close targets, you just put anywhere on the triangle on the target and it's going to be a hit. So it is kind of nice in that aspect. That just takes some getting used to. So these guns all shot very well. If I were to put them in the order again, how I felt like was this, man, I probably would put these two as a tie. And then obviously the Springfield, I don't even have it on the table, but Springfield would be last. I mean, it had the most recoil, very snappy. It doesn't really absorb a lot of that recoil, and I don't like the trigger on them compared to these. So, you know, just my personal preference here. That's the order I would put them in. These two are a very close tie. I personally do shoot this gun better, but I'm also more comfortable with it. I've shot a couple matches with it now. I just borrowed this one, and this was my first time shooting it. So, very good shooting guns. I'd love to shoot a stock DVC Open too and compare it with the stock grip module, but these things all shot great. So tell me what you guys think as far as what the recoil looked like in the video with the slow-mo videos on how they shot, and tell me what you think as far as what else you want to see. So I've got some reviews coming up with some rifles and some rimfires next, but I wanted to get this one out there to show a few of these really cool STI DVC older models here. Thank you. Well, that concludes today's video on the Pew Review channel. We just wanted to review some of the STIs that we had available for us to try, and now I'm hoping that we can get a couple more different guns out there. I've got some rifles to review next, and I've got some rimfires to review. But thanks for sticking along, and subscribe, like the video, comment on there, and tell me what you think on the slow-mo videos, which one you think shot the flattest, which one you think did the best on the review. Thanks, guys.